So many organizations are successful because of kind of brute force or Herculean efforts by lots of people on the team. And you get really dedicated employees that come in and beat the odds, and the whole myth of the entrepreneur scaling the impossible face to scale. And everyone's got to show up and do an amazing job. And you can absolutely move a company forward that way. But every organization that relies on people doing anecdotal things or people figuring it out the right way at the right time and perfect timing and all those things will ultimately hit a wall. It's only when you look ahead and you're really thoughtful about where you're going and how you're going to get there that you can truly get the company to the next level. And most importantly, there's so many entrepreneurs, there's so many senior executive teams that are completely burned out. They're showing up every day. They don't really have a good plan. They're not sure where they're going, but through really great effort by a lot of people, they're able to move the company. But that's ultimately the formula for burnout. That's ultimately the formula to flatten out your growth and potentially even move backwards. So it's so important to be thoughtful about where do we want to go? Where do we want to go in the next 90 days? Where do we want to go in the next year? What's our 3 to 5 year goal? And really, what's the mountain that we want to climb? And if there's a famous saying, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. And that's organizations that are not doing planning, that maybe they're on a great path, maybe they're on a great trajectory, but you're really courting disaster by failing to plan and by failing to think about, and collectively as a group think about where you want to go. So the whole idea of doing annual planning and quarterly planning is to take some time to hit the pause button, step away from the business, hopefully in a really creative space where you can get out of the day-to-day and you can eliminate distractions and you can creatively think about the future and where the company's going to go. And if you don't stop every once in a while to do that, you don't stop to sharpen the saw and think about what's next and what's coming, you may be able to be really successful in the short run. And you may be able through, amazing effort to take your company to a certain level. But ultimately those companies run out of steam. And, they're often the ones that you see on the Inc. 500 or the Inc. 5000 list that had these great early starts and they make the list and they're, successful and they're getting the articles and the PR and the interviews, and then ultimately you look back in a couple of years and those companies have failed. Almost every time those companies have failed because they were successful through brute effort and brute force, and they were on a great runway and a great trajectory, but they were so busy that they thought, we don't even have the time to stop and think about where we're going. We don't have the time to stop and sharpen the saw, and ultimately they hit a wall. So the idea with planning is really important to hit that pause button, take the time, preferably with a coach. Certainly a coach can give you perspective that you're going to struggle to get on your own, but planning is the time to think about, okay, what's next? Where do we really want to go? What's the impact we want to make in the world? How do we build a place that's sustainable and is really on a long-term path and not just relying on, because people come and go, right? People change jobs, people have all sorts of stuff going on in their life. If you're relying today just on an amazing effort from a great group of people, that should be a real red flag that you might be in for trouble. So the way to think about planning is, how do I hit the pause button? How do I take a step back? How do we look at our business collectively and think about where we really want to be, not where we are today? So that's the whole idea of planning. And it's fundamentally critical. The faster a company grows, the more important it is to stop every once in a while and think about the plan. And I know it takes time away from the business, and I hear it all the time. We don't have time. We don't have time to take 2 days off site and talk about next quarter because, we've got orders to fill and we've got widgets to make and we've got people to hire. But when it's the hardest to do is when it's the most important to be done. So if you're in that mode right now and you're thinking you don't have time to plan, that's the red flag that says it's never been more important to plan than right now.